So the impeachment talks are continuing. And there is now a growing number of support amongst Democrat candidates. So people who were not jumping on the let's impeach train, they're jumping on board now. First at the top of the list, Bernie Sanders has since endorsed it. And he came out previously, not necessarily since the whole Ukraine thing started, but I've seen videos where he said, I'm afraid this may have the opposite effect. I'm afraid this might rally President Trump's base, work against the Democrats. Now he's fully on board Democrat train to impeachment. Someone else who has flipped position, Tulsi Gabbard. Now, I'm not going to say there is not some issue clearly with what is being reported that Trump did. And there's a lot of other concerning things that are coming out after the fact, too, as well. He's made some comments saying, we used to handle spies a lot better. What used to happen to them back in the old days, kind of implying, something along the lines of a capital punishment. That's not a good thing. But, just sticking with the impeachment issue, I can see where they're wanting to make the argument that he should not have brought up Joe Biden on the phone call with a foreign leader. And the whole, I'm going to hold this over your head if you don't give me X argument. I'm just not so sure just how much of that I really believe. I'm not really buying into it. I'm not seeing the evidence that they're making against Trump, but I am seeing that evidence against Joe Biden. And so, so as a result of this, the problem here is I don't see how you can make this argument against Trump when you're not holding your side to the same standard. Now, you see, I've seen videos from TYT this week. They're trying to say the same thing about the Republicans, comments that Lindsey Graham made back in '99 on the impeachment of Bill Clinton. And then, so they're trying to say the same things about the Republicans. But the problem here is, to me, both sides should be fair. But to me, the fairness really is a concern of the people making the accusation in the first place. Not the Republicans in the House, who are the minority, or in the Senate, who, if they vote this down, and this was done 100% by the book, completely fair, by the Democrats, there was legal precedent that he has committed a crime. They set a standard and said this is not acceptable and stuck to it, and then impeached him, and the Republicans refused to convict. You've given the Republican Party a black eye. And according to some recent polls, apparently, Kyle Kulinski made a video on this on Secular Talk, there is over 10% spike in support of the impeachment inquiry as compared to where we were before this whole thing started. Now, I want to say first and foremost, I'm very hesitant when it comes to President Trump to believe polls. Because if polls were correct, Hillary Clinton would be the president right now. We wouldn't have heard all the, oh, please flip the Electoral College, don't accept the results, we wouldn't have heard any of that. All the polls had her winning. Multiple news outlets. She was going to win in a landslide over, well over 300 Electoral College votes, they were saying. Didn't happen. Didn't happen. Donald Trump won. And there was basically no polls out there. And the only ones who said he even had a chance at possibly winning were discredited by almost all news outlets, including a lot of YouTubers such as Secular Talk. Kyle Kalinske, hey, no disrespect, I just remember seeing this in your video. I watched it all the way back then. Everyone who even brought up those polls said, oh, you can't believe that crap. Those are the same polls that said Mitt Romney was going to beat Obama. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Look what happened with that. Okay? So, yeah, those polls were wrong about Mitt Romney and Obama. But somehow they got it right on Trump. So, here's my question. Is it that these polls somehow miraculously were right? Or is it a fact that these other polls that had her winning in a landslide were possibly just as every bit as rigged in the first place as the DNC primary was that year? Because I don't have faith in them. Where do these poll numbers come from? I know obviously they're supposed to be getting people and asking them. I'm not saying that because I have never been polled, like ever once, that they don't do it. Obviously they do. My concern is, how are they going about it? Who are they talking to? Where are they going? Because I'm not a hermit. I don't live indoors. I get out and about. I've never, ever been polled and asked my political opinion out and about somewhere. Where are they getting this stuff from? Like, I'm very curious. I go to fairs. They have, the fair every year, they usually have like a booth set up for the Republicans and the Democrats. I've never been polled. Ever. So I'm very suspicious of these polls. And I just want to say that and get it out of the way first and foremost. So maybe there is, according to the poll Kyle Kalinske showed, half the country is indeed now in favor of moving forward with the impeachment inquiry. Okay? Maybe half the country is, maybe half the country isn't. It doesn't really matter either way. The Democrats have huge problem on their hands because the ammunition that you are handing Republicans and Donald Trump to fight this impeachment, oh man, it's so ridiculous. You're basically handing him napalm. You're not handing him bullets. You're handing him napalm and hydrogen bombs. Okay? You're handing this man a Moab by trying to move forward with this topic. That I really don't see how they think this is going to be any kind of a winning strategy. Because your current frontrunner is not only a gaffe king, certainly isn't the most progressive man on the stage by any stretch of the imagination, doesn't support a lot of the key things that somehow the majority of the Democrat base want, from what I've been hearing. The push for Medicare for all is strong. So he's not really in line with a lot of base, yet he's still a front runner. He is a perfect example of the old relic status quo, the corporate Democrats, okay? And this man, literally, for whatever the reason, some people are trying to say it had nothing to do with his son, Hunter Biden, and the investigation. Me personally, it's a little too coincidental for my liking. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Doesn't matter. If he did do it, I guess it does matter to some degree, because to me, that just adds a little bit of more icing on the cake. Cake's already got icing. Okay? This isn't the old cliche, this is the icing on the cake. No. This cake already has icing. You're adding a little bit more if he did it to help his son. The fact of the matter is, you've already got the cake and the icing. He told Ukrainian leader, okay, if you don't fire this prosecutor, you're not getting the money for these loans. We're not going back them. Perfect quid pro quo. I mean, I said all this stuff the other day. But the main focus that I really want to get to is, see, I'll consider that the cake. Here's the icing. And this actually predates his ultimatum. See, his son got that job during a political change in the Ukraine. So his son gets popped for cocaine. He gets discharged from service. He's got no experience in an energy or a gas company. And as his dad is vice president of the United States and a new political party is taking over in Ukraine, he miraculously, keep in mind that political party also has the backing of the Obama administration. He gets a job sitting on a gas company's board making $50,000 a month and has no expertise in the field whatsoever. $50,000 a month. And if any of Donald Trump's kids, I don't care, we're talking Eric, Don Jr., Ivanka, doesn't matter. Okay? If any of them had done this during these first few years of the Trump presidency, that would have been the smoking gun the Democrats kept saying they've had for the last, 2 to 3 years at this point. Okay? There it would have been. They would have pursued impeachment a long, long time ago. And if you think otherwise, considering they've been turning every rock possible over to look for a reason to impeach him, if you really think that if one of his kids had done something like that or gotten a job like that in a foreign country during they would have considered it such a conflict of interest. And if you don't think that they would have done that, you're just kidding yourself. I mean, really, you were just kidding yourself at this point. So, that's the problem they got. How do you convince the American people you're trying to be fair and not do this out of partisan politics when your front runner has the exact same problem that the sitting incumbent president supposedly has? You're accusing him of it. You say it's an impeachable offense. But your front runner has the same problems. How do you win that argument? How do you not come across like, partisan, tribalist politicians? You're not trying to abide by the Constitution on a fair and equal manner. You're trying to use the Constitution to play politics. Now, by all means, enforce the Constitution. Follow the rules. Do it for everybody. See, if the Democrats really cared, they would be calling for Joe Biden to drop out right now. But what's actually going on behind the scenes? Well, first and foremost, Joe Biden and his, group of stooges are now trying to call news outlets and tell them to stop booking Rudy Giuliani because he keeps making this point. Now, you don't have to be a fan of Rudy Giuliani, rather. I mean, to me, the guy comes across like he's got a screw or two loose. Never met him, but just, I don't know. He seems like he's very prone to stick his foot in his mouth, in my book. Nonetheless, you've got a presidential candidate trying to tell news networks who they can and cannot book because he doesn't like what they're saying about him. Does this not reek of Hillary Clinton 2.0? I mean, really? He has no authority to do that. And all the while he's trying to tell news networks, you can't book so-and-so because I don't like what they're saying about me. What else is he being accused of? Oh, you don't want him to come on there because he's pointing out you got the same problem that the Democrats are trying to impeach Trump on. So there's another serious problem. No one's calling for his dropout. No one. You know, problem number 2. Multiple candidates have been asked, but namely the biggest flop of them all, good old Elizabeth Warren. She was asked that in her corruption bill, is what we'll call it, would a president or vice president be allowed to have a son get a job on a board of an energy company or anything remotely close to what Hunter Biden did during Joe Biden's vice presidency, while their parent would be sitting on the board? And her initial answer was no. Then I got to do some research on that one. I have to do the specifics and check the figures, and answer went straight down the toilet. And now we see the issue that everyone's got. They are following party script. DNC is basically writing a script. And unfortunately, it looks like even Tulsi's hopped on this train. And Bernie. And everyone. Now, maybe you do agree that Donald Trump should be impeached. I'm not saying Tulsi, Warren, Bernie don't have their own legitimate reasons thinking the man should be impeached. But, for God's sakes, if you thought this would be too divisive for the country a few weeks ago, Tulsi, and there's an election next year, and Bernie, you thought this could come back to be a swift kick in the ass for the Democrats because it's going to help his base, just like his poll numbers actually went up after the whole Russiagate thing turned out to be a big pile of nothing. Okay? You thought this was going to do more or less the same thing. And Jimmy Dore's been saying that. Now all of a sudden, you get this little bitty shred of information. And while there may be some illegal activity in it, and I'm not saying he should be allowed to stay above the law, you've just got a problem here because no one is saying a damn thing about Joe Biden. And I don't really care about Joe Biden. Okay? Joe Biden can drop out, stay in, because there's plenty of other people on that stage besides Joe Biden that I really don't want to get the nomination. Kamala Harris, Beto O'Rourke, Cory Booker, Pete Buttigieg, Elizabeth Warren. We can keep going on. There's a lot of people that I really, really, really would hate to get that nomination. Amy Klobuchar. Okay? So he's just, a fraction of the list of people that I would despise to be nominated on the Democratic Party. Okay? The problem, what I'm getting at here is, at some point, for the sake of your whole party, you've got to quit kissing this elitist's ass. Really? How many issues has Joe Biden had? Okay, let's read them off. Okay? You've got the issue where there's been people saying he's a little too touchy-feely for my liking. Okay? Seems like he's getting dementia. President, my boss. Really, Joe? President, my boss. It also came across like he couldn't even remember Bernie and Elizabeth's name. Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. As either the last debate or the debate before that. Seemed like he couldn't even remember their names. What? Really? And you're a president? You got this guy telling stories about corn pop? And then you've got all this evidence that basically says he is the identical twin of Donald Trump when it comes to what he did in regards to Ukraine. Not physical twin. You get my point. He's done the exact same thing. He is basically Trump. If anything, you'd say Trump copied him. He didn't copy Trump. Trump copied him. And actually, Trump didn't copy him because there's not that much evidence stacked up to say that Trump had any kind of quid pro quo going on. The only real thing you can say he did wrong for certain was the fact he brought up a political opponent to a foreign leader about an investigation. But, while Biden didn't do that necessarily, the whole quid pro quo thing and the corruption, no doubt. Way more evidence of that for him than there is on Trump. And they're still trying to pin corruption thing on Trump by saying he, basically blackmailed the Ukrainians, say, you don't do this, we don't give you this. You got Biden on tape saying it. So how do you get this done without holding him accountable? It's not going to work. It's not going to work. And I get it. There's a lot of people out there who don't want Donald Trump to be president. Okay? You got to realize something. As the old Kenny Rogers song says, you got to know when to hold them and when to fold them. Okay? This is fold time, ladies and gentlemen. You don't go forward with this hand. You want to look for something. There's a lot of other issues out there that I don't personally agree with Donald Trump on. Would I like to say I would like to see impeachment take place? Not necessarily. But if you're hell-bent to do it, you got much better subject matter than this. Look what he's doing, sending troops to Saudi Arabia. Really? We're going to go protect the Saudis? Didn't we just sell them like a boatload of arms? They can't protect themselves. We're already stationed so many other places. Like, really? So, you're not going to go after him for stuff like that. You're not going to go after him for bombing Libya again. You're not going to go after him for the fact apparently some farmers were recently killed in a drone strike. Innocent civilian farmers. Oh, yeah. Look that up. Look that up. Okay? We're not going to go after him on any of this stuff. No. We're going to go after him on something that our own front runner has basically a very similar circumstance to. Meanwhile, we're not going to criticize said front runner. We're not going to say he should drop out. And we're not going to hold him to the same standard as the sitting president, even though he's a former vice president trying to become president. No, we're going to pretend it's not happening. We're going to pretend he never did it. We're going to turn a blind eye to it. And we're going to come across as a nice, fair, and unbiased party who only does the bidding of the American people. Who believes that? I don't, and no one else should. That comes across as a double standard, and people will see it. Now, obviously, most of the people in the Democrat Party are probably going to be willing to turn that blind eye to it. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican either. This is the independent report. And right now, according to the poll about who supports impeachment, you've got, I think, 51 don't support impeachment, or do. I can't remember Kyle Kalinski's poll. Either way, it was 51 to 49. 51 to 49. I think it might have been 51% did approve and 49% didn't approve of it. Actually, now, the more I think about it. But either way, that's basically 50-50. That you could argue and just say, yeah, that's pretty much independents are split half and half. Okay? What do you think is going to happen if this keeps going forward? If this turns into another big circus, just like Russiagate, just like the Mueller report, and nothing but double-standarded BS is shown on behalf of the Democrat Party? You really think those polls are going to stay at 50%, basically with independents, where it's right at half and half a point difference in each direction? No. A 2-point difference. You think it's going to stay that way when it becomes clear the Democrats are flip-flopping whichever way they think that their masters, the DNC, want them to go? And that includes some of the people like Tulsi and Bernie. You're shooting yourself in the foot. You really are. And again, I'm not saying anyone should be held above the law. You just have to hold everyone accountable for the crime if you know of more than one person that did it. That would be like at the scene of a murder. At the scene of a murder, my DNA was found. And my handgun was found. But there was no witness who saw me kill anyone. And there's no other evidence of me being there. We'll call that Donald Trump situation. Nonetheless, my DNA was found at the scene. My gun was found. They arrest me, charge me, because they have reason to believe I may have murdered this man. Now I have to go through court for a court to decide whether I'm innocent or guilty. And what this basically is, taking that scenario, compare it to this scenario, because this is going to be Joe Biden. There's a murder scene. Joe Biden's DNA was found at the scene. His handgun was found at the scene. And eyewitnesses saw him at the scene. And one of them is actually, there's a witness who is willing to testify that he admitted doing it. And they actually got a recording of him saying he did it. But the police say, oh, well, it don't matter. Matter of fact, to make it more identical, we'll say it was the same murder scene. So we'll say that his DNA wasn't at the scene and his handgun wasn't at the scene. My DNA is at the scene. My handgun's at the scene. Joe Biden is on recording saying it, and eyewitnesses saw it. But the police turn a blind eye to that and just come after Trump or me and whoever. That's basically the way this is unfolding. If you followed the analogy I was making there. You got my DNA and my handgun at the scene, but he's admitting he killed the guy, okay? And witnesses saw him do it, and the police say, no, we're arresting you. Really? I think you would arrest both of us. And then try to figure out who the actual person that did it was from there. Point in case, hold them both to the same standard. If you're willing to do that, and if you're willing to hold everyone accountable according to the law, the Republicans don't have that Moab anymore to fight back and say, look at this corruption. Can you believe this? They're playing such partisan politics. This is so unfair. This is so unjust. You take that off the table. You say this is unacceptable behavior, and we're going to do something about it. And we'll do it to people within our own party because we don't support corruption. But that's not happening. And even the people who flipped to saying that they support impeachment on Trump now, I still haven't heard them say Joe Biden needs to drop out because of this, and he should be facing the same consequences as Trump. Therefore, that just reiterates partisan games, partisan politics, partisan BS, party before people. And it's not a winning strategy. It's not a winning strategy. If the Democrats want to do everything in their power to see a Trump 2020 victory, keep up the good work, guys and ladies. Yeah, all of you. 2 thumbs up. Keep up the good work, because he will get a second term if you go down this path. Remember, some of Clinton's highest approval ratings came after the Republicans tried to impeach him in '99. It's going to do the same thing for Trump because you are following such a double standard here. So, yeah, keep up the good work.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Independent Report. If you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up and like the video. Also, if you have any questions or comments that you'd like to ask or topics you'd like us to cover, please drop a comment in the comment box below. And also, please subscribe to the channel. And if you do subscribe, ring that bell so you'll stay up to date when we drop new videos and you'll get notifications of it. And also, please support us on Patreon. Funds are going to be used to grow and improve this channel so we can reach more and more people and spread the message that the mainstream media doesn't want to tell people. We hope you'll tune in next time.